We are live. We are live, please. We are live.
Thank you.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all our viewers in-house and in all our platforms all over the world. I greet you with the best of greetings by saying Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Mulikat.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
My name is Mulikat Ibrahim Ayashams, and I welcome you all to our series, our All You Believe series in Ramadan. Today, I have the pleasure of saying that you should please try to send this link to your family members, it is Sadaqah, to your friends, so that they can benefit from the lessons of this lecture and what we are going to share today and the month of Ramadan. May Allah accept for you as Sadaqah to Jariria. I am going to hand over straight away to our Sheikh, our father, the anchor for the moderator for today's program, Professor Mashud Baderi, I believe. Sitting in for him today is my brother, my father, my young father, Alaji Ajikonle Hussein. Why saying that? Please be ready. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replenish your sources. Please do not hesitate to contribute to our mosque today. I want to thank everybody who has contributed so far to building a house for Allah. How laudable is that? That people you are among those that Allah has called, that is been invited to build a house for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. See you on the other side.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah al-qaili fi kitabi al-karim. ومن أسلم ومن أحسن دينا ممن أسلم وجهه لله وهو محسن واتخذ ملة إبراهيم حنيفا واتخذ الله إبراهيم خليلا نحمده حمدا ونشكره شكرا ونتبعه تسبيحا ونبجله تبجيلا والصلاة والسلام على مبعوث رحمة للعالمين محمد وعلى آله الطيبين وأصحابه المباركين. أما بعد, we give gratitude to Almighty Allah for this opportunity since we started Ramadan, counting down. Today is the 9th day in the month of Ramadan. Remember, like Prof used to tell us, Ayyam Ma'adudat. It does not wait for anyone. It's already named. It's been preordained to be 30 or 29 days. If you take 9 from 29, you have 20 left. So that's how much time you've got to do what you have not done and to increase in what you have done since the beginning of Ramadan. It's my pleasure to welcome us on to the program today. And I thank our sister, my dearest, Elijah Mulkat Ibrahim, for kickstarting the program today, inshallah. Like she mentioned, I'm standing in for Professor Masahood Badiri, who is unavoidably absent today, inshallah. I'm so delighted and excited that I'm the one moderating today when I have my father on the platform. We welcome Papa, and I ask Almighty Allah to continue to strengthen him, to continue the good work he's been doing for decades, and he hasn't stopped doing that. We thank Almighty Allah for the strength, and we ask him to continue to strengthen him. Allahumma Ameen. Today, inshallah, time is never our friend since we started this Ramadan, because it's been reduced to 1 hour. So I want to enjoy our dad, Professor Dawood Shitu Alatokobodoibi, with so many titles around there. And we thank you. It's a pride to us all as an Huma of the Dean of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I'm so happy to be the one introducing him today, and I feel a profound sense of honor doing that. Our father is our father, and he's a leader and a teacher of teachers, an accomplished educationist, and a role model preacher of Islam. His Saj for knowledge took him from Rodico School, Sapele, Muslim Teachers Training College, Jabode Government Teachers Training College, Surulere, Lagos, Cairo University to American University in Cairo, Egypt, and University of Ibadan. Professor Naibi worked as a translator and broadcaster in Egypt as an education officer, Northeastern State of Nigeria, now Borno State. He was a senior lecturer at the University of Ibadan and served as a member Council of Ulama of Nigeria. He was the chairman executive council of Muslim Community University of Ibadan, member Muslim Scholars Congress, Jakarta, Indonesia, and served with the International Planning Committee for Second Assembly on World Religions, New York, among others. Professor Dawood Olatokunbo, as I refer to him with so much respect, Shitu Naibi is the pioneer executive secretary, CEO of Muslims of Southwest of Nigeria. Muswen is an Islamic scholar of repute, a professor of Islamic studies and former Imam of the University of Ibadan. Professor Naibi was a consultant to Ikra Trust UK. He served as the internal consultant on Islamic religious matters to the Muslim Association of Nigeria, Old Kent Road Mosque, and Islamic Cultural Center UK. He initiated several institutions that are still thriving and for which the Ummah is now only proud but greatly appreciative. Inshallah, what an intimidating CV. We congratulate our father for this uncommon achievement to his credit. Today, on all you who believe, for the next 25 minutes or so, we'll be having on the podium our father, Sheikh Professor Dawood Olatokunbo Shitu Naibi. He shall be talking us through the legacies of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. Mo fi tọ̀wọ̀tọ̀wọ̀ gbé àwọn bàbá mi wọlé kí Ọlọ́run jẹ́ kí àárín yín pẹ́, kí àtúbọ̀tán náà kó jẹ́ lẹ́yìn tí yóò là ọpẹ́ lọ. Gbogbo àwa tí à ń bẹ lẹ́yìn yín gẹ́gẹ́ bí ọmọ, a gbàdúrà yìí pé ibi tẹ́ ẹ bá dé k'Ọlọ́run jẹ́ kí a gbé jù bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ. Ọmọ àfi abẹ́bí àti ọmọ àfi tẹnubí, ọlá Ànábì Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ọlọ́run níjó rẹ̀ yín, àárín mọ́ yín máa pẹ̀lẹ́ sí bá wa jìnnà. Falyatafaddal mashkura.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. My brothers and sisters back in the United Kingdom, brothers and sisters in various other parts of the world, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
It gives me great pleasure to be part of the very good work that the Muslim Association of Nigeria, United Kingdom is doing, including these projects of Who You Believe. Jazakumullahu khairan. Now, let me start by drawing attention to the remark made by Almighty Allah in His wisdom as He commenced the narration of the story of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, whose legacy is the subject matter of my lecture. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي يُوسُفَ وَإِخْوَتِهِ آيَاتٌ لِلسَّائِلِينَ. Verily, in the story of Yusuf and his brethren, there are signs for those who make inquiry. Now, while generally speaking, the divine purpose of telling the stories of prophets in the Quran is for people to learn lessons from them. But particularly, this is mentioned in the case of Yusuf, as I've just quoted, especially because of the lessons that the story bears. Of course, the special qualities of the personality of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, and thus his legacy, will be the major points for consideration. Yet, the historical context and special circumstances surrounding the narration in the Quran are also important and very, very pertinent. The story of Prophet Yusuf, alayhi salam, as told in the Quran, that is in Surah Yusuf, which is the 12th chapter of the Quran, is full of lessons for us to pick. The surah was revealed to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam towards the end of the period of 13 years of his mission in Mecca. That was a time when the persecution of him and his followers by the Quraysh was at its highest, and the Quraysh were actually plotting to do what? As Allah says in the Quran, arrest and imprison him, or kill him, or exile him from their midst, as is stated in Surah 8, Ayah 30 of the Quran. It was also the time when, most probably at the instigation of the Jewish leaders, the Quraysh challenged the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to narrate the story of Prophet Yusuf. That was part of the attempt to disprove his claim that he was God sent and that the messages that he proclaimed were actually from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That was because the Arabs at the time were not familiar with the story of Yusuf, so they knew that there was no way Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam would have learned about him from anyone. They probably imagined that he might attempt to secretly seek the answer to the question, to the challenge, later from the Jews. They concluded that doing so would have exposed him. So they were convinced that he would not be able to pass the test. However, they were woefully disappointed when the full story of Yusuf was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who confidently recited the whole story at that spot, on that spot, and there and then. That incident established two absolutely relevant and important facts, namely, one, that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was truly a prophet of Allah, and the revelations that he proclaimed were indeed from above and not from any human source. Secondly, that surely all the plots of the Quraysh against the Prophet Muhammad, who was their kinsman, were bound to fail and would actually lead to his triumph over them and his greatness, just as the case was between Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam and his brothers. It was as though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was warning the Quraysh that their behavior towards their kinsman in the same way as the brothers of Prophet Yusuf would bring them to shame at the end. So they should be very careful, and because following that tract will certainly destine them to become the subjects of the authority of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even in Mecca, their home city. Just as the brothers of Prophet Yusuf eventually became his subjects in Egypt. Now, what are the highlights, the highlight events of Prophet Yusuf's story? Yusuf alayhi salam was the 11th of the 12 sons of Prophet Yaqub, and therefore the grandson of Prophet Ishaq and great-grandson of Prophet Ibrahim. He and the youngest of the 12, that is Bunyamin, were full brothers, while his 10 elder brothers were from different mothers or a different mother. It is evident from the account that he and Bunyamin were specially beloved to their father Yaqub. However, that was not for any other reason than that they were the youngest of his children. His elder brothers were jealous of both of them, especially of Yusuf, for what they regarded as a show of too much of love for Yusuf and Bunyamin on the part of their father. Prophet Yaqub was aware of this and was very conscious of it. So when Yusuf narrated to him that he had a dream that 11 stars and 11 stars and the sun and the moon bowed down to him, Yaqub cautioned him that he should not disclose this dream to his brothers, knowing that they were likely to be more jealous of him as he disclosed this dream to them. On the other hand, as a prophet himself, Yaqub had interpreted the dream and had foreseen that Yusuf was destined to be a prophet too, who would be divinely endowed with the ability to interpret dreams. He has seen this as a special favor bestowed upon, not just upon his son Yusuf, but indeed on his own household, just as a similar favor had been bestowed upon both his father, Ishaq, and his grandfather, Ibrahim, alayhi salatu wassalam, both of whom were themselves prophets. Meanwhile, the brothers of Yusuf had plotted to get rid of Yusuf, believing that that was the only means by which they could win the attention of their father. They agreed to throw him into a well rather than kill him, as was the original intention. At last, they succeeded in persuading their father deceitfully to allow them to take Yusuf along with them to the fields, despite Yaqub's initial objections. They had assured him that they would take a good care of Yusuf against any harm. With crocodile tears in their eyes, they lied to their father on getting back home that evening that a wolf had eaten Yusuf. They presented his shirts, which they had stained with the blood of sheep, as a pretext. But Yaqub saw through their trick, noting that the wolf must have been very clever, a very clever one indeed, for being able to remove the Yusuf's shirt before killing him and staining the shirt with his blood. Meanwhile, as soon as Yusuf was thrown into the well, he received a divine assurance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through revelation or inspiration that he would be saved and would eventually remind his brothers of their evil plot and their evil action against him. He was picked up eventually by some passers-by in a caravan heading for Egypt, passers-by who were struck by his amazing beauty. He was treated as a merchandise and sold to slavery in Egypt. But his master, who purchased him, turned out to be the Aziz, or chief minister of Egypt, in whose heart Allah had placed great affection for Yusuf. He pleaded with his wife to take good care of Yusuf and make him comfortable as a son, that is, rather than treat him as a slave. Thus did Yusuf enjoy some relief after being abandoned to danger and later sold to slavery. Besides, Allah says that while Yusuf was in the household of Aziz, Allah, established him firmly in the land and endowed him with wisdom and the ability to interpret events and dreams. So, living his life as a young person in the household of the Aziz was indeed a training for someone who himself was destined to become the Aziz of Egypt in the future. That is the chief minister of Egypt. Describing this special favor, this special endowment that Almighty Allah bestowed on Yusuf, Allah himself proclaimed, and thus we would reward the doers of good. End of quote. Now, having passed through that, there was yet another trial. At this point, Yusuf's extremely handsome look proved too much of a temptation for Zulaykha, the wife of the Aziz, to resist. So she tried to seduce him, but he refused to succumb to her pressure. At last, she tried to force him to do her will and locked the door. As he tried to escape, Zulaykha pulled his shirt and got it torn. There and then, her husband, who had been away, opened the door and saw them. Embarrassed, she immediately accused Yusuf of an attempt to assault her sexually and suggested to her husband to send Yusuf to prison. Yusuf pleaded innocence, stating that it was she who tried to seduce him. Of course, the Aziz was confused, not knowing which account to believe. But Allah, in his wisdom and mercy, enabled a baby in the household of the Aziz at that time to speak and suggest a solution, saying, if his shirt is torn in the front, then she has told the truth and he is a liar. But if his shirt is torn at the back, she has lied and he has spoken the truth. When the Aziz saw that Yusuf's shirt was torn at the back, he pleaded with Yusuf for patience and secrecy so that the matter would not become public. Turning to his wife, he blamed her for playing such a woman's trick and advised her to seek forgiveness. But the matter did not end there. Women in the city soon became aware and blamed the wife of the chief minister for attempting to seduce her house help. This came to the knowledge of Zulaykha, and she decided to restore her dignity. She invited the important ladies of the realm to a banquet and gave each of them fruits and a knife. She then ordered Yusuf to come out and walk past the midst of the ladies. Amazed by Yusuf's beauty, the ladies cut their fingers inadvertently. Satisfied that she had proved her case, she said to them, that is the young man about whom you have blamed me. She then made up her mind to have her desire fulfilled. She had threatened Yusuf with imprisonment if he would not succumb. However, Yusuf was resolved never to yield and declared that imprisonment was preferable to doing the evil that she invited him to do with her. At last, the Aziz was convinced that it was better for the family if Yusuf was put in prison. While in prison, Yusuf preached to fellow prisoners who found his piety and honesty exemplary. One day, two of the co-prisoners who happened to be former servants of the king's palace approached him for the interpretation of their respective dreams. He explained the meanings of their respective dreams to them, and his interpretations turned out to be correct. One of them was called back to the service of the palace, while the other was executed true to Yusuf's interpretation of their dreams. Thereafter, the king had his own dreams, which worried him, especially because none of the palace chiefs could interpret the dream. 7 fat cows swallowed by 7 thin ones, and withered fields of corn replacing fresh green ones. The confusion reminded the surviving former prisoner of Yusuf's special gift for the interpretation of dreams, and he was sent to Yusuf. Without hesitation, Yusuf interpreted the king's dreams that there would be a period of bumper harvests, followed by another period of drought. He further proposed a solution, namely that the nation would have a bumper harvest, but they should preserve enough of the bumper crops to fall back on over the period of the drought period, of the drought that they would experience. Pleasantly surprised at the solution proposed by Yusuf, the king decided to free Yusuf from prison. Then he sent for Yusuf, but Yusuf would not leave the prison until he had been cleared of the false allegations made against him. The king summoned the women, including Zulaikha. She declared Yusuf's innocence and confessed that it was she who tried to seduce Yusuf, and confirmed that Yusuf was adamant and honest. The king freed Yusuf and decided to give him an appointment in his government. Accepting the offer, Yusuf asked to be put in charge of the storehouses of the nation so he could do the work prudently. He assured them that he was going to be prudent, and he was so appointed. The drought adversely affected not only Egypt, but also the countries around, including Canaan, where Yaqub and his family resided. Meanwhile, the preservation of the crops made over the bumper period, as proposed and managed by Yusuf, attracted seekers after sustenance to Egypt. Yusuf's brothers were among the foreigners that came to Egypt for supplies. When they arrived, Yusuf recognized them, but they didn't recognize him. He had friendly chats with them and inquired about their family back home. He gave them plentiful supply as they were about to return. But in addition, he asked his servants to put their fees back into their luggage in order that they might be encouraged to come back. But he requested that they bring their youngest brother along with them next time they were coming for more supplies, lest they would not be entitled to further supplies. They returned home joyous, though they were yet to realize that they had been dealing with their lost brother Yusuf. They returned the second time with Bunyamin, having persuaded their father to allow them to take Bunyamin with them. Yusuf received his younger brother Bunyamin well and disclosed to him silently, quietly, confidently that he was his brother Yusuf, that he should not disclose to anyone. When they had been given this supplies this time, Yusuf ordered that the king's golden cup be kept in the luggage of his brother Bunyamin. And that was done secretly. When they were about to leave, he asked his soldiers to go and announce that they had stolen the king's golden cup. They were astonished and declared that they were not the kind of people that will come and steal. So when he asked them to search, he asked the soldiers to search, they searched and found the cup in his brother's luggage. So he now decided to detain his brother for, in quote, having stolen this. Assured us that it was he, Allah, who taught Yusuf with that wisdom to be able to keep his brother in his service so that wouldn't home. Now, but instead of keeping quiet, his elder brothers again showed the animosity that they still harbored against him and his younger brother Bunyamin. They said, well, if Bunyamin has stolen the king's cup, it's no wonder. His elder brother had stolen something else in the past, making reference to Yusuf, as though Yusuf had committed any such crime in the past. Yusuf was so collected that he did not disclose to them. Neither did he react in a way that would make them realize that he was the one they were taking lies against. So they went back and told their father what had happened, that Bunyamin, his son, had been detained and because he had stolen the king's cup. Now, Yaqub was devastated. Again, Bunyamin after Yusuf, so he cried and cried until he became blind. So he sent his children back again to Egypt, even though they were going back for fresh supplies. He reminded them, please go and look for Yusuf and Bunyamin, which shows that as a prophet of God, Yaqub was sure that Yusuf was still alive and not eaten up by a wolf. Now, when they got back there, as they entered, he welcomed them and he asked them, you remember what you did to Yusuf and his brother Bunyamin? They looked up and said to him, are you Yusuf? He said, I am Yusuf, and here is my brother. They felt devastated and began to plead for mercy because they thought that he was going to deal with them harshly as they had done to him. But instead of being harsh towards them, he simply said to them, La tathriba alaykum al-yawm. Today, there's no reproachment against you. It is only the shaitan that had brought about division between you, my brothers, and myself. Feel free And do not be worried. I am not going to reap any vengeance today. No vengeance today. They apologized to Yusuf and sought forgiveness when they went back home. They went back home, told their story to their father, but as they were going back, Yusuf gave them his shirts. Again, shirts, his shirt, and said, please just place this on the face of my father. He will restore his eyesight, inshallah. And as soon as they approached home, even before they actually arrived home, Yaqub announced, I am feeling the kind of sense, the odor of my son Yusuf. And the people at home said, again, this Yusuf, are you not going to forget about him? But when the caravan arrived and the shirt was placed on his face, he became blind. He restored his eyesight, and he was able to see again. And when they told them this whole story, he said, did I not tell you that I know what you don't know? And they sought his help to seek forgiveness on their part, on their behalf from Almighty Allah. And he promised to do so, to seek forgiveness on their behalf. Now, brothers and sisters, what are the lessons that we can learn from this story? Let us now try to identify the major lessons which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the story bears as our duty to do. We have to learn what stories are there which Allah wants us to learn. Given the historical circumstances of the revelation of the story of Yusuf, we know that it is a reminder of the fact that it was meant to let the Quraysh know that Prophet Muhammad was indeed God sent. Otherwise, he would never have been able to tell the story of Yusuf as he did. And also that all the revelations that he was proclaiming before this time were actually from God. But of course, it does apply as well to not only the Quraysh, but to Muslims to the end of the world, even those that are not Muslims that have any contact with the Quran and can read the story of Yusuf. Now, some of these lessons constitute the direct qualities of Prophet Yusuf himself, while others may be regarded as general lessons that the story teaches. Now, the legacy of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, as deduced from the story as told in this surah of the Quran, as narrated by Almighty Allah himself, includes the following. 1, the wisdom of taking good counsel from those who are better informed and experienced, and applying their good advice appropriately. That's one of the things we should pick up. Had Yusuf not narrated his dream to his father and taken his advice regarding his brother, his elder brothers, his brothers would probably have dealt with him more ruthlessly, such as totally annihilating him. 2, furthermore, obviously, his father's prophetic interpretation of his dream did, encourage Yusuf to feel that, inshallah, his dream would come true, and that he would overcome the various challenges that he had been facing. And thirdly, the remembrance of Allah at all times creates hope and psychological support, even in dire situations. For example, the fact that Almighty Allah revealed to him as soon as he was dropped in the well that he would give his brothers information about what they had done was enough an assurance for him that he would not die in the well, that he would live to meet his brothers and tell them about what they had done. So that reminds us of what Almighty Allah says, Allah bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. Surely, certainly, the remembrance of Almighty Allah gives people a rest of mind. Now, number 4, it is not advisable to share information about good things that happen to you with just anybody and everybody. The shaitan is an enemy of human beings, especially believers, as Yaqub had warned his son, Yusuf. Now, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam warned us about the evil eye, al-ayn, which the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said we should pray against and be very careful about. Number 5, the power to say no to an evil suggestion or inclination, no matter how tempting the situation might be, is also something we can pick from this lesson. Now, when threatened by Zulaykha, threatened with imprisonment by Zulaykha, what did Yusuf say? He said, prison is more beloved to me than what they are inviting me to do, as stated in the surah itself. And another thing relating to this particular one is this. One should be resolved not to take evil advantage of a special gift that Almighty Allah has bestowed on you. For example, Yusuf was conscious of the fact that Allah had bestowed beauty on him, and he did not. He was resolved never to take undue advantage of that endowment. He also teaches us loyalty to one's benefactor. Yusuf was appreciative of the kindness of the Aziz, or chief minister of Egypt, to him. So he resisted pressure on him by his mistress, wife of the Aziz, who tried to seduce him. And he said, wrongdoers never prosper. That's another very important lesson. Another lesson that we can pick from the story of Yusuf is this. Like Yusuf, Muslim youth should rely on Almighty Allah and not on the glory of family background. Though he was the son of a prophet, grandson of a prophet, and great-grandson of a prophet, and himself a prophet, he always made reference to Almighty Allah and the need to be pious. 7, doing dawah, that is inviting people to the way of Almighty Allah practically, was something that every good Muslim, whether youth or older people, should try to do whenever the opportunity presents itself. So even in prison, Yusuf did not stop preaching Islam. The 8th lesson we can pick is this, that there is importance in planning in order to be successful whatever project you want to embark upon, whether it be personal or otherwise, as shown by Yusuf's interpretation of the king's dream. It is also good to pick something, the offering of one's service selflessly, even when there is an opportunity to serve one's own personal interest. Yusuf alayhi salam could have given the condition of being freed from prison in order to interpret the king's dream, but he didn't do so. Another lesson is that it is good to be honest and make appropriate use of available opportunities to resolve outstanding challenges. Yusuf gave an implied condition for accepting the king's invitation after interpreting the dreams to the amazement of the king. And that was that they should invite the women and clear him of the allegation, the false allegation made against him that put him in prison. And the lesson is this: courage and sincerity in demanding a position when the opportunity presents itself, and you are convinced that you are the only one that has the quality to fill that vacancy. When the king decided to place Yusuf in his government, Yusuf told him, "Put me in charge of the nation's storehouses. I shall manage them prudently and carefully." Another lesson is this: it is good to learn to be forgiven, even in very difficult circumstances. Yusuf unreservedly forgave his elder brothers, despite the very wicked manner in which they had dealt with him and the most unjust animosity they had harbored against him, even after they thought that they had gotten rid of him. They said, "Oh, if Bunyamin has stolen, then his brother had stolen before him." But Yusuf displayed patience and self-control, even in such very trying situation. That heinous lie told against him would have made some people burst and disclose their identity. He kept it to, as Allah tells us in the Quran, he kept it to himself and never disclosed it to them. He merely said to himself, "You are an evil lot." He merely said that, "You are an evil," he said it to himself, "You are an evil Lord. Allah knows well the truth of the accusation that you are making against me to my face." The 14th lesson that I have been able to identify is that making the pleasure of Almighty Allah your ultimate target, but it does not necessarily deprive you from your legitimate material attainments in the life of this world, as Allah states unequivocally in the Quran, Surah 7, Ayah 20. For Yusuf, the pleasure of Almighty Allah here and in hereafter was his main target. Yet he did not become, yes, he did become a prophet. Not only did he become a prophet, he became the prime minister of the land of Egypt. He is said to have ruled Egypt independently for 80 years. I should not conclude this section of my presentation without drawing attention to the role that Yusuf's shirt played at different stages in his life. Before throwing him into the well, his brothers had taken off his shirt and stained it with the blood of the sheep as a pretext to convince their father falsely that truly Yusuf had been killed and eaten by a wolf. Conversely, however, Little did they realize that their pretext was going to be was going to expose their lies. Their father questioned, how could the wolf eat Yusuf, leaving his shirt intact, untorn, though stained with blood? At a later stage, it was Yusuf's shirt that it was his shirt torn at the back rather than in the front that proved Yusuf's innocence against the false accusation leveled against him by his mistress, the wife of Aziz. Finally, by the special grace of Almighty Allah, it was Yusuf's shirt placed on his father's face, as directed by Yusuf himself, that restored Yaqub's eyesight to him. There is no room for superstition in explaining it all about this shirt. A safe and simple explanation is to regard it as a demonstration of the fact that something that may look insignificant may turn out to be the key to an apparently insurmountable problem. Yet another lesson is that the end of the story portrays Yusuf as an ideal role model of all times. He expressed sincere appreciation to Almighty Allah and prayed to Almighty Allah for a good end, both in this world and in the hereafter. Affluence did not change his attitude to life. He said, according to Almighty Allah, stated at the end of this story, and I quote, "My Lord, you have bestowed dominion on me and have taught me to comprehend the depth of things. O Creator of the heavens and the earth, you are my guardian in this world and in the hereafter. Cause me to die in submission to you and join me in the hereafter with the righteous." Brothers and sisters, well, Alhaji Ajikonle, I'm not sure how much time I still have left.
30 seconds, sir.
30 seconds. Well, thank you very much. As I said earlier on, there are several other lessons that do not relate to Prophet Yusuf directly, but there are lessons that can be picked up from the story of Yusuf. And I would advise, therefore, that my brothers and sisters that have listened to me kindly look at the story of Yusuf in Surah Yusuf as told by Almighty Allah himself, the knower of all things, who was witness to everything, even when Prophet Muhammad was not there, has told us the whole story. And let us try and reflect on these lessons. I pray that Almighty Allah grants us the opportunity to witness many more Ramadans in our life and learn more about him so that we end up well, both in this world and in the hereafter. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What an interesting and a refreshing departure from the standard, format of presenting all of the guests we've had since the beginning of Ramadan and even outside of Ramadan. We have the tradition, and rightly too, to quote our professor has said, for the last how many minutes since it started, there was no mention of an Arabic text. It did that. The only temptation that he could not resist when he had to say, Allah bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. And he said again, I really don't, it did not diminish the understanding of the lecture. We didn't know that can only be done by a professional that he is. We ask Almighty Allah. I was able to capture all of the 15 lessons. Now, the other side, the other aspect of this presentation today was going to request you, sir, to do a mini launch, what do you call it now? Fundraising for us, and like we have had, our previous guests do for us on the program. Abu Maswa, you've tried to get in touch. I don't know. You can just give me a text message. That's Libas himself. Sorry about that. We thank Baba, and I know, except that we do not have the time to take him questions today, but we still will do it even if it's just one. So I'll go to the control room now. Whatever you have for us there, a reminder, and please put the account number on the chat box so that people know, you will know where the money will be sent in, inshallah. So inshallah, as soon as that's been done, I'm putting Sister Molikat on standby, because you want to assist my father in doing a mini fundraiser tonight, inshallah. Control room, please. Please, I'd like to crave your indulgence for an extra 5 minutes. I know it's 6 o'clock already, and luckily enough, Iftar has moved, a bit forward, giving us a bit of room. It was like a sin to me to stop my dad. I thought it was going to be something like, I don't know. I felt like, it was sinful to stop him and the flow and everything, So I was studying. I knew I could have sent in something to say 10 more minutes, sir, until he said it. I wasn't going to say it anyway. Kalonjaria or Babakwe. Control room, have you got something there? Otherwise, we just go on to the other side. Today is not going to be an exception to the general, standard practice of collecting, a bit of money for our old Kent Road Mosque. It is standing, and we have, for that to happen in full fledged, then we have to continuously make contributions. While I'm thanking those who have pledged and redeemed their pledge, and those who are still, making pledges, we ask Almighty Allah to continue to provide for us, as we continue with as we count down to the end of Ramadan, inshallah. Sister Malikat, I'm sure you can't wait.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What a good company to be in. My father, my daddy, Alhaji Dawood Noibi, the one who my father was a clerk to, and who was part of my naming ceremony. Look at the daughter of a clerk, with the boss of her father. May Allah forgive all our dead. I'm so proud to be here and to be in this
my dear daughter.
Sir, so I'm so proud that I'm with the father who named me when my father was his clerk. It's beautiful to be. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. And I'm proud that life all started from Bende State for Prof, where I'm also from. And I want to acknowledge that because of that, those who love me, people like Sister Hanat from Edo State, they gave 150 pounds. My brother Nuruddin and so many other family members, and they have raised towards a sub for Prof and for us a total of 830 pounds. And with that, I open the floor for donations for these sessions today. And I pray that whoever has benefited and actually remotely thinks that this session has been beneficial to them, they should please dip their hands into their pockets. Allah who gives, will gives. Prophet, our father has told us today, among the points that he raised, that whoever does things for the sake of Allah, seeking the pleasure of Allah, and offering one's service selflessly are part of the points he raised. From those points, the lessons of Surah to Yusuf. If you believe in that, please support us and let us read this.
It has started. It has started coming in. Baba mi, we already have my father, Baba Ibrahim Adewusi, supporting you with 100 pounds. It's like we are renaming you today. We want to commemorate your naming, which happened how many years ago?
Let's hands up too, sir.
So inshallah, we
have 50 pounds from Miriam. So hands up, Fikrullah, please.
Yeah, Fikrullah, hands up, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, sir.
Wa alaikum salam
wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Inshallah, sir. It's happy to see you and hear your voice, sir.
Thank you very much.
I'm supporting you with 100 pounds, sir. Inshallah.
100 pounds.
Thank you very much.
There's another
Well,
anonymous
let me
contribution,
just
£100 as well.
this. Let me just add this to Alaji Ajikonle. I just want to add this to what my daughter Malikat has said.
Yes, sir.
Namely, we all know the assurance that the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam gave us as to those who built mosque or contributed to the building of a mosque.
Yeah.
There's going to be a place for them, reserved for them in Al-Jannah. And we should all strive to be part of this, this reward when we would have left everything we have gathered and owned in this world behind at the time of our return to him. So I would like to support this call for donation with the sum of $500.
Allah Akbar Kabir. Monica, can you see this rare luck when the person who named you, who was meant to collect money on your christening, is now giving money.
That is the part of giving, offering one's service to Allah selflessly and doing things for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let us all stand up and take the call.
Amin.
Salam alaikum, sir.
Alaikum salam.
Ọmọ yín alájà mi ló sọ̀rọ̀ sà ẹ kọjọ́ mẹ́ta sà.
Ọjọ́ kan pẹ̀lú ẹ̀pẹ̀lẹ́ kújọ́. Thank you very much. Àlàáfíà gbogbo wa. Thank you very much.
Nice to see you again, Daddy. You are lovely.
Shukran.
I just love you. And thank you for making me a good Muslim. Alhamdulillah. This time I refer to you. I mention your name all the time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. You are welcome. You are welcome. You are welcome.
For your stand there, I mean, I must support the cost you £50.
Allah Akbar. £50. Please, my sister Malika, we have Syndicate Salahu, £100.
£100.
Please, you can do this together because now all this will be at your instance. So let's know how much plus the initial £800. You can just get on the chat box there and please get all this money together so we can have an addition and a grand total.
I would just say I'm so excited. Can the control room do that for us, please?
So we have an IGJ Shola. Control, please. IGJ Shola. Anima Shao.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
I just want to greet the prof and my friend send and my wife send our greetings to the prof, sir.
Thank you very much. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Kindly give her my regards and to the family too. Thank you very much.
Keep my mama. Sir, bye.
Sister
Moina has a hands up.
Moina Koka, please.
Salaam alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Salaam alaikum, Prof. Moina to look in your
MashaAllah.
It's very nice and lovely to hear your voice, sir.
Alhamdulillah.
We're still following your legacy as Alaja said. Gbogbo àwọn lecture tẹ́ fún wa, ó ṣe ń penetrate in our system. Allahumma barik, Ọlọ́run jẹ́ a rí yín pẹ́, ẹ kú iṣẹ́ àdínì. Ọlọ́run á lọ rẹ̀ mí fún wa o. Àdínì àgbẹ̀ wa o. I will support the cause as well. Salaam alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum salam. We have all of these donations coming in. We have Ajibola Damola, Siddiq Salahu. Please, if you can take all of these, because of Iftar, especially in Nigeria, we have to release our father, and we also have to start winding down on today's episode. Today, I congratulate our new baby, Malikat Ibrahim, for this renewed christening. May Allah Akiko. We are doing your new Akiko today, inshallah. Allah Jodaba Jubailo. Omotiena Udaba. Yoda bi baba. Motoba to Tiena Jadi. Yoda bi Mumoquintoma Wada. Koda bi baba. Now I would like to hand over back to same Mulikat Ibrahim.
Yes.
Inshallah. And before I do that, we'll do the let's take the
what I have here is 1,003 £1,300 plus the $500.
So we'll see what we get from the 500, but then it will be up to like £400, I guess. So whatever it turns out to be when it's been converted to pounds, then that is well. That's a lot of money.
1,720, hopefully.
1,007. Oh, he said only. You want it to be 2,000. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. Our whole you believe before I hand over back to our baby of the house tonight, Sister Malika Ibrahim, is taken from Al-Baqarah, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 183. I think we can't say it enough. Where Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, kutiba alaykumus siyam, kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum, la'alakum tattaqun. Oh, you who believe, the fast have been enjoined upon you as they were enjoined upon those before you, so that you may be God-fearing. And please permit me to take the next verse. Ayyama ma'adudat. And that's to just raise our awareness that these days are numbered. It's 9th day. I don't know what you've done, but if you have not done anything, you can start doing something. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sister Malakat.
Now, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I want to thank our father. I want to thank my father again for this beautiful, insightful, knowledgeable session. I want to thank all our viewers. I want to thank my father, my young father, Alhaji Aji Konle, for standing in and handling this very well. I thank all donors. Those donors, you know yourselves, my family members, my friends from Edo, my friends from the UK, my family members. Please keep the donation coming. Please stay tuned to our link. Use our link again tomorrow throughout Ramadan. And if you want to see another rebirth, I'm here again with Professor Noebi, inshallah, again next week sometime. Please stay here, share the link, let us learn, and let us take one thing away that our daddy, our Prof has told us tonight, that we should all go and try to read about the story of Anabi Yusuf alayhi salatu wa salam, and try to read more and understand more about him. Until tomorrow, please join us again. I say assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Baba mi Ọlọ́run jàre yín pé
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Amin. Jazakumullahu khairan.
Wa alaikum salam. Tomorrow is another day, inshallah. So let's come back here tomorrow, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum.